Hello everyone. In our today's topic, I would like to discuss about Chinese demographic debacle and how this has happened and why. And let's start. China adopted liberal economic reforms in late 1970s when China was ruled by their premier Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping then indicated China's rapidly growing population was seen as an obstacle to economic development and improved living standards. So Deng Xiaoping's Politburo introduced new controversial family planning to ensure that population growth did not outpace the economic growth, and the China implemented controversial one-child policy in 1980s. And what was the one-child policy, and the how do the China implemented that policy? The one-child policy was couples at that time only allowed to have one babies, but some exceptions was there, and that policy was implemented with some exceptions. Many groups were either exempted or provided the specific exceptions from the policy. The ethnic minorities could have more children, and families who had physically challenged babies or girls could be given exceptions to have a second child. But for that, applications to the government authorities were required. But policy was implemented effectively and more strongly in urban areas. It was enforced through several means, and those were the incentivize the families financially to have one children, making contraceptive pills widely available, imposing the sanctions against those who violated the policy, and imposing the hefty fines for violating the policy. The states also used the brutal tactics and such as forced abortions and the sterilizations. After violating the human rights, state authority claimed that the policy was successful one according to the reasons they gave, and those reasons were it helped the country to divert or avert the several food crises and the water shortages by preventing the 40 crore people being born, because during 1958 there were food crises in China and the water shortages were severe, so they came up with this policy called the one child policy. But the criticism remains there for controversial implementations of policy. It's been very unfair to the poorer Chinese families, since the richer one could afford to pay the economic sanctions if they violated the policy. The richer actually violated the policy very often, and they used to have the babies more than one babies. And this policy also increased the deserted and the orphan children populations, because sometimes some couples used to have the girl babies, and they that were not intended to have the girl babies, so they left in the hospital, left in the orphanage room, and tried for the second time to have the boy baby. So this kind of disaffected or disadvantages was there for this policy, this one child policy. And now the next one, why the China is so worried now, why the China is do not want to continue with this policy? Because according to the 7th Chinese census data released by the country's National Bureau of Statistics shows that the China's birth rate is plummeting at alarming rate, and it is only 8.5 births per thousand population in 2020. At that and that figure was 18 per thousand populations in 1978. And these data has worried the Chinese leadership because the population growth directly proportional to the economic growth, and the economy such big like China needed to be fueled by constant supply of cheap labor. So the China's working populations between the 15 to 59 is declining. But there is a still ray of hope. And what is that still ray of hope? And the though is the greater proportions of the children 14 years or the younger who have now 25.38 crore, or the 17.95 percentage of populations up to 1.35 from 2010. But the Chinese men to the women ratio is 115 is to 100, and which is very skewed, because lesser number of women means lesser number of eligible married women. So that is why this population is so vulnerable, of being fallen apart. The marriage has decreased, divorce rate also decreased, and some couples are not even interested having the babies because the social constraints of having the babies. And China's fertility rate has dropped to 1.3, far below the replacement level of 2.1. In this rate, newborns will not going to replace the old ones. So China steadily going into the league of more in the league of more Japan and the Italy, because Japan and the Italy have the more older peoples, the more geriatric peoples the China will going to have along with the Japan and the Italy. That is why they are so worried. They worried to implement the policy of three child policy. Now what was this China is doing now? And the population, to arrest the population decline, and the why the peoples are so skeptical about it, why the peoples are not believing the Chinese government right now, because China shifts from the one child policy by abandoning it completely and replacing it with first one child policy and two the child policy, then the three child policy since 2016. And the China increased the retirement age, trying to reduce the working hours. The Chinese working hours are very lengthy, so they are trying to reduce the working hours. They are trying to give the women some relaxations to take care of the babies. And the maternity leave for the women raised to the 180 days from 150 days, and the maternity leave for the men raised to the 25 from 15 days, and the baby leave is been granted by the Chinese authority for 20 days in a year, along with reduced prices for the daycare centers for working couples. And Jillian province, the one of the province in the northeast of the China, will support the banks to provide up to $31,400 of the marriage and the birth consumer loans, basically baby loans to the married couples. But the young boys and the girls, those who were been in one child policy days, are not interested to have the more than one babies because the rising the raising child the because of the raising cost of the child's money. I mean the raising cost of the taking care of the child is very expensive. In China, the school fees, daycare, and the higher educations and the property are all increasing. Their price are all increasing. So the young couples are not interested of having the more than one baby. Rather than they are far more interested in their career progress and the higher paying jobs. And the young populations are not interested about the baby loan, and the baby loans are not, they are not interested because they do not want to end up with the loans in their life. They already taken the loans for the houses, for the cars, for the personal loans. There are different kind of loans these young couples loves to take, and after that they are not interested to have the baby more than one baby and taken the burden of the one baby loan. So in the conclusions, I can only say that according to me is that abandoning one child policy in China should have abandoned the one child policy long before, and the state always have the population data with them, and the leaders should have alarmed long ago. Now the leaders are alarmed. They should have alarmed long ago because the state always have the population's data with them through the different means, through by implementing the policies, different kinds of policies, socialistic policy, because China is in socialistic states, but they have implemented the American policy of kind of an capitalism right now. But the China is a big economy with a huge stash of money. They can subsidize the couples, those who are interested having the more than one baby. They should not give the loan is a burden. So they should not give the baby loan to the couples. They should incentivize those couples by giving them some free money, and they should not thrust their policy like they thrust their one child policy on then on the couples. They should not they through a survey they can know how the peoples are interested having the babies, whether the peoples are interested having the babies or not. They can survey, they can conducted a survey. Through that survey they can came to know that what are there in the Chinese people's mind. So this is that for today. In now today's question is, and the question is like that: which of the following country implemented the world first family planning program? The options are India, second is China, third is Japan, fourth is Pakistan, fifth is Indonesia, sixth is USA. And I have gave you a question related to the UPSC, which is Union Public Service Commissions. It's conducted by the UPSC, and it is India specific examinations. And the essay I gave you, that should India come up with a population control bill to arrest the population growth in country, and how it should be implemented, discuss. If you wants to give me the answer, then please give me the answer through my email address, which I already gave you, which is tuhin.power.academy@gmail.com. Thank you very much.